is to be instructive with my life so that I can be an advertisement, like a billboard for a principled way of living, and that this shit on the other side of being where I was is still fucking sexy. It's still glittery. It's still fun. I found my smile on the other side of this shit. I learned how to laugh on the other side of this shit, like genuinely. I found a group of friends around me. You know, I found purpose in my life.
Got this little girl, man.
I mean, that's even that, as big as that is, that's almost an infinitesimal part of how, and feels almost like some cheesy pre-written version of what's available to a person when they start living towards this purpose. It's complete alignment, you know, like when your head, heart, and your spirit and the universe are in alignment, like what this agent is saying, you know, it's like, you know, bro, I pray for dudes like that. Every night before I go to sleep, I pray for all my cheerleaders and all the naysayers. And then I ask God to give these people everything he would give me. Like my life is now, I've experienced ego death. And what that's allowed me to do is like open myself up to being what dudes like Brolin and not to lump them all to the same category, and I probably shouldn't even do that, but other dudes that, you know, Mel. I remember seeing Mel at the Oscars with his head held high, and I thought, you know, I was sitting in rehab. This was the bullshit rehab, but I remember seeing that and thinking like, oh man, I could do it, you know? And I'm trying to present a different version of that to the world, where it's like, all right, you know, the business aside and like all the ego shit aside, which really isn't my aim anymore, like my life is incredible. Like, I'm so fucking blessed. There's no cap in anything I just said to you. I got so much love in my life, so much joy in my life. Fearlessness that I didn't have before, you know, a calm, a serenity. My life is full, and it's not full of like the stuff that I was chasing before. I'm not here to like find my way back into nothing. Those people who don't get down with me, they probably never will, you know. To say that I don't love the craft is not true, but it's secondary to this other thing I got going on, because this is all temporary. And I don't want to get too far into this route, but like, people may not forgive me, but I know that I have been forgiven, you know, and I know that I am loved. And when you really know that in your fiber and on a cellular level, then what people think about you, you know, like, God bless them. It's not that it don't matter, because to say that, like, I'm blessed in that I am in the public sphere and that people do have judgments about me. I'm blessed for the judgments. They keep me in line, you know. It's about perspective on it, you know. Like it's that can't call it shit, you know. I wasn't supposed to be there for whatever reason. Now he's got his reasons, but he's got, you know, there's a bunch of other reasons that I wasn't supposed to be there for that. I think about the jobs that I got fired from when this shit just popped off, and I think, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be there, you know. And there's a strange kind of weird validation on the other side when you feel like you've been saved from certain situations. And like, if I sit for 12 years, it's because I'm supposed to be sitting for 12 years, you know? If I never work again, that's exactly what's supposed to be happening. Like, my purpose isn't tied up in my craft like that anymore. And the other thing that's happened to me, because I've been blessed with opportunity since this shit happened, is when I do show up, my way of working is totally different.
How so?
It's free. It's free. It's like, I mean, I heard people talk about this, but it's not so like controlling and nitpicking and trying to figure out what I got in my pockets and how I'm going to sit and let me do it this way, and like there's a perfect take and a fuck take and like, you know, it's not that anymore. It really becomes like this, like a jazz routine with me and the universe, you know. I pray before I do shit. I be looking at my coworkers like, bro, I love you. You know, I guess like the motivator isn't, it's a different propulsion system. And so, yeah, so even that has changed in my life. And I never thought I was going to work again. And the fact that the job that I got to come back put me into the church in a real way, not in a way that I had done it previously, in a very real way, felt almost bigger than the job. Wow. It still feels bigger than the job. Yeah. And so I have a very defined version of God in my life. It's very defined, and I needed it defined. Now, that may not be for everybody, and that's cool. You know, you call it what you want. At the end of the day, what it really is it's just love. You know, every great Abrahamic text talks about the same shit. Like, God is love. And so I didn't know what love was. I didn't know what that actually meant. And what it is it's selfless service for your fellows. That's what love is. And so I never had really done any of that. I had never been a part of any of that. And so even Slauson, even the theater school was ego. It was straight up ego. Watch me bring art to the hood. And you know, looking back on it, I could navigate a little bit better because of my upbringing, and I didn't look like such a fucking square walking in because I knew who to go to and how to move and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it's the same shit. It's like virtue signaling, you know? Watch me go be of service. And then I advertised it en masse, you know? Watch me go do this thing. It's the shit that nobody sees. It's the quiet service. It's the quiet small work. That's the stuff that actually is much more fulfilling, and really that's really what's been motivating my life. It's the only reason I can like wake up and have any respite in my life. It's the only reason I can have any kind of reprieve from this nonstop monologuing that happens in my head that will put me in a shame spiral. You know, I could very easily walk into a coffee shop in the middle of Venice and look around and watch people look at me and write a whole monologue about how you think I'm the elephant man. And if I really want to, I could just go on Twitter and just scroll my name and just fall into some kind of K-hole of self-deprecating shame and darkness.
Do you ever do that anymore?
Of course. That's why this is a daily thing, you know? My ego doesn't just disappear, like ego death, but that motherfucker will pop back up at a moment's notice. The minute I do anything good.
So prayer, what else? Like how do you keep it at bay? How do you keep it dead? Like how do you extinguish it when it pops up on a daily basis?
Having a kid is really helpful for humility.
Definitely.
Because a kid don't care, you know? That's really helpful. She's very helpful in keeping me humble. Having a squad, being a part of a group that gives you feedback in real time.
Can you walk me through the squads? Is that, how often is that? It's a meeting?
It's every day, 60 dudes. And yeah, we meet every single day, 6 p.m. on Zoom. We have bike rides on Thursday. We meet up at the beach on Sunday. You know, we go to other groups and stuff like that. But it's like it's a squad. It's full on. It's like a gang. And I get out of it what Bo gets out of being in the Pueblos. Bo's not gonna tell you about all the bang shit he gets out. He's gonna talk about the love that he gets in it. And you know, I remember Bo telling me one time, like I remember asking him questions like you did, like why did you join this? And I remember him telling me a story about how like he was in the middle of some shit at a house and 50 dudes showed up for him to help him. That's the feeling that I get out of like this squad that I have. You know, it's not tied to like what I'm doing. They don't ask me questions like, "Hey man, what are you working on?" That's not what goes on in that room. You know. And there's other people in that room who dip and dabble in the arts and stuff like that. But there's also like just regular cats. You know, and it's a great equalizer. It's a great equalizer. It just keeps me in check. It keeps me on the ball. You know, it keeps me in alignment. You know, they ask questions like, were you honest all day? You know, they ask questions like, what'd you do for somebody else today? You know, were you kind to all God's kids? Were you kind to everybody today? Oh, you weren't? Tell me about it. Well, I flipped a dude off in traffic. Word? Why? You know, well, and then you talk it out. Not that you're trying to dwell in the toxicity, but like you're trying to build an awareness around how you move in this life so that you can create like a bit of distance from your reactions. I'm such a reactive person, and being a cat who like, I mean, I'm not Stanislavski. I don't know why people credit me with this shit. That's your thing. I was never that guy. I was far more into a different craft. You know, I was far more reactive. And when you work that way, then it's very difficult to like navigate the world and not be that. You know, I was very reactive in life, which is a lot of where this drama came from. A lot of this trauma and pain that I perpetuated on people was so reactive. So I'm developing a pause. I'm developing like the ability to shut the fuck up and not do anything. You know, and it felt so emasculine to not do something. It feels like emasculine to not do something. And for me, there's nothing more masculine than a mountain.
Tell me why.
Just don't do much, and it's always there.
Yeah.
And you can't move it.
Yeah.
And so like, that's
it's
what
complicated.
It's
got all kinds of shit on it.
Yeah, but it's also super simple.
That's true too.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too like arty-farty with the shit, but I like the stability of a mountain. I like the simplicity of a mountain. I like the complexity of a mountain. There's different notes, sure, you know, different elevations. Yeah, I'm not interested in like a monotone, naive optimism either. You know, that's not what I'm pitching. It's not. It doesn't make me effective to tell a dude who's in the middle of being on fire, hey, it's all gonna be okay. Because it's not. Some shit's not gonna be okay. And then you got to ask yourself why that's happening. And God either is or he isn't. You know, that's just, it's very simple. And so even the negativity that befalls your life or any kind of tragic shit that happens in your life really is, you're being tapped. You know, this is how God refines. And so I'm blessed, bro. I'm blessed for all the fuck ups too. I'm blessed that I had a group of people around me who, when I was in triage mode, could really grab my arm and tie a tourniquet. And now I'm able to pay it forward and be a service to other people, and even show up here and like look another man in the eye. Just that was like a big hurdle to get past. When you're in the kind of shame that I was in, and you've been defined a certain kind of way in the public, just to get to the place where you could sit down and look another man in the eye and speak honestly about where you're at, that's like a testament to a lot of work that got done. 100%. And really, if that's all you get out of doing the work, then do the work, you know? So, and I keep going to this God thing, and it's not like the get out of jail free card for me, you know? It's not like I'm trying to say this stuff to absolve myself of anything. You know, I'm trying to be an advertisement for what this did in my life. It changed my life. I was kicking it with these monks for 9 months, and for a while I just thought like,
where
all right,
were you with them?
Santa Ynez. There's a monastery called the San Lorenzo Novitiate. It's a monastery, Franciscan monks, and I was there for living in my truck in a parking lot for months until they brought me in, and wound up being like this 9-month journey with them, and they laugh so much. You never think monks are they just fucking, they're laughing all the time. They're laughing a laugh that feels pure. It's not based on like this cutting anybody up. It's like,
can you give me an example? Like somebody like lets a fart out, or
yeah,
like
it's that
kind of stuff.
It's just like childish baby shit.
People have been laughing about since
they're little kids, bro. It's like they've cultivated their innocence. They're like kids. They're not, but there's this innocence to them. When they don't have to they've taken permanent vows of chastity, obedience, and poverty. And when you cut that shit out of your life, it leaves you with a very specific palette with which to paint. When money isn't dictating any of your decisions because you don't have a bank account, when sexual relations and pussy, and that's not clouding your brain, infringing on your ability to see shit. If you're not in charge of nothing, if you're completely obedient to basically their commanding officer, their head of vocations, then it puts you in this very like whimsical wonder. There's a lot of wonder. Yeah. It's like they're in awe all the time, not like in a naive way. You never seen people have more fun at a barbecue kind of way. The kind of shit where, like, I remember one time there was a couple of monks that, you know, they would go get groceries. People donate stuff to them, right? They don't buy shit. They live off of the whatever some days it's gonna be edamame, some days it's gonna be gummy bears. They're living off of what they get, right? And there's a beauty to it. Are they
happy with
as fuck with everything?
No, but I mean, like, is there?
There's no preference.
Lima beans, like, for real?
Yeah, straight up.
But is the lima beans? Is that disappointment?
They will freak some lima beans. It's not like they don't know what to do with lima beans.
They're good with it.
They're gonna freak lima beans.
Yeah.
And lima beans is gonna be something you want to have. You know?
Yeah.
They're gonna freak it out, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're gonna go get to work.
Yeah.
There's 20 dudes gonna be in there like chefing.
Yeah.
Like, Wolfgang Puck with some gummy bears. You know, we're about to make this happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna pop in here tonight.
Yeah.
And they're excited about it. You know, they'll be walking up and down the hallways like lima beans tonight, G. You know. And anyway, so I remember driving behind them, and this is like early days. This is back when I had, you know, when Abel first reached out to me about doing this. It was all ego. I was still early days of sobriety. It was like, ooh, back to hustle, wiggle room. That's how it started for me. It's like, oh, you want me to do what? With who? Willem Dafoe, oh, bro, forget all this sobriety talk, forget all this cleaning. Yeah, I'm back. Ooh, here we go, bro. Back, right? It happened so fast. And now I'm in the mirror again. I'm doing my shit again, just back to the old me, you know, just getting to work, you know, trying to find who this dude could be. And I'm back into like full blown.
Did it diminish the shame that was on your shoulder?
Yes.
Did that start to?
Yeah, it went away. It went away immediately. This is what work used to do for me. It was like, okay, you talk shit all you want, agent man, but I'm like going to work. So like, I don't care, you know? And even now, like, there's parts of me that are like, well, yeah, okay, you can hate on me all you want, but I'm still talking to this dude or doing that, and you know, my head's still, I'm a human being,
of course.
And you got to navigate it. You got to see when it happens, you know. Right away when you said that, I'm in my head like, ooh, Coppola, you know, like I want to like speak to like, who are you to this, and just constant. It happens. It's just a constant process you got to be aware of. So yeah, I remember driving behind them to go pick up this stuff. And this is early days, so I'm not even there for spirituality. I'm there for like, where do you put your hands? What's it look like when you do this? I'm just like building. Right. I'm just building, you know? All right, what kind of, you know, like the vapid shit. What kind of shoes, thief, you know? And just like, oh, prayer life? Yeah, okay, boom. Yeah, what does that look like? It just looks like a dude sitting in a room. Okay, cool. But I'm not going to actually get involved in that process, you know? And so I'm driving behind them. They're going to pick up these groceries. And I see this dude on the left turn to the dude on the right, and he just starts laughing. Just ha, 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 ha. Like the kind of, like, looks like a cartoon, like a cartoon laugh. But it's kind of silhouetted because I'm in the back watching them drive. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I've experienced that a bit in my life. I remember being on Fury with you and laughing like that on the tank. And these are like the most incredible moments of my life looking back now. These moments where you're laughing like that. And they laughed all the way to go get the lima beans. And on the way back to the seminary, they laughed all the way back to the seminary. And I thought this was a one-off. And every time we would get in the car and these dudes would get in the car, it was this silhouette of just outrageous laughter. And, you know, you ask them, like, what are you laughing about, man? And the dude's like, don't know. Everything. Sometimes I just look at the dude and we'll just start laughing at each other. And it's joy was the first, like, laughter was the first miracle. It felt like, I don't know, that was the first attractive thing about faith for me, was the laughter. Wow. And the fact that these monks aren't like docile, solemn all the time. You know, they cut each other's hair, they're in the gym, they're dudes, but they also have a principled life. And that became very attractive to me at a certain point. I've always been attracted to guys like Kevin Vance. I've always been attracted to a Marine, to a gangster, to an extremist who's cultivated this kind of tribe around him, who it resembles some kind of weird, jumbled up idea of masculinity to me, these go-getters in life. Because really what's sexy is the commitment. The commitment to a lifestyle. Direction. Is sexy. Whether it be Bo or Kevin or whatever, you're committed to it. It's a lifelong thing. It's not a tattoo. There's no removal. This is forever, right? That's right? And so you get around these monks and you feel something like what you feel when you're around Kevin. You feel something like what you feel when you're around Bo. It's sexy. It's super appealing. You're a part of a group and they're knee deep in it. They are in love with what they got going on. And the Hollywood shit is secondary. And you know, I remember telling them what was going on for me in my life when I was there, and they were the first guys to say things to me that sounded like there was a route towards something salvific for me. Like it happened, like this stuff also happened to a man named St. Augustine. And they started breaking down Augustine to me and who he was, and started explaining to me who St. Francis was. And you come to find that most of these stories of saints in the faith were fuck-ups, full-blown fuck-ups. They weren't perfect people who did perfect shit their whole lives and then wound up, requirement.
Touched by God from the beginning, pooping gold, like,
It wasn't that way. The requirement for their sainthood was the fuck-up.
That they've been there.
They had to have experienced real negative shit in their life to be able to have this other thing, this salvation, this hero's journey. They're explaining saints to me, it's like the hero's path, you know? And I'm a writer, I'm in my head, you know, what is my hero's journey? I'm always asking myself, well, what? And I always thought it was gonna be through the craft. That my hero's journey was kid from the bottom, came to Hollywood with no fucking training, and now I'm like, you know, working with these people and this, and I'm doing that. And that was my hero's journey, and it was so curt. It was so blunt and lazy. And it wasn't like this other thing that's available. And so you get around these dudes and you hear about their path and how these guys got there, and you start meeting dudes who, like professional tennis players, you know, got lost on steroids, you know, drugged up, got completely wayward, and then decided to enter the order. And so these are dudes who know something about competitive sports. They know about like ego in the way that I do. The only people I've ever been able to feel like I'm close to in terms of the way that I deal with my craft is athletes. It's sports figures. And you find that a lot of sports figures are deeply insecure people because it's all because it's a meritocracy. And that's what irregardless of this, if this is how the business works now, the way I view the business is, it is a meritocracy. You know, you get respect based on what you can do and how hard you work. And sports is like that. And that's a shitty way to live, because everything that comes to you is based on you and what you do. And if everything in your life surrounds you and is centered on you, you become a fucking a vapid, self-interested, selfish, self-centered human being. How could you not? The world is happening in front of you. The default setting already is that you're completely self-absorbed. But then when you're involved in a meritocracy, like working for commission, basically, then it's all about your efforts. Your efforts dictate how your life is going to go. And then there's no room to have faith.
The guys that couldn't make the team, are you worthless because you didn't make the team? Not at all. Do you have a purpose out there? Are you important?
See, but that not at all is not a given. It's not a given.
Understood. And well, I think it is probably was and is extraordinarily difficult for you.
Yeah,
who's been doing this for so fucking long.
That was it.
Yeah, man.
I had no value once they took the job from me. There was no value in me as a human without this craft. I didn't have any reason to be alive. My whole life. And
you were super untrusting of friendship, bro. Like you never, you know what I mean? Like
true.
That's what, like before I even met you, man, I was like, I'm gonna show that motherfucker what it's like to have a friend.
It's
like
true.
I'm gonna be his friend. And it was always, it was always a resistance.
Which made me untrusting of love, which made me untrust of love in every version and capacity of it. And so my relationship with my wife, all the friends that I'd had in my life, they were always like less than they could be. And even with guys like Bo, you know, when Bo kept in contact with me through all this, you know, and other people as well. But it was guys like that who had messages of depth and weight, who could really speak to the fact that, like, you'd been lower.
Straight up.
Bo had been lower than me. Bo was sitting down for a long time. Now, I'm not in prison for a bunch of different reasons that have to do with politics and reality of race relations in America. And, you know, if this shit had happened to a white woman and I was a black man, this would be a different story. We wouldn't be talking in the same kind of thing. I'm fully aware of the kind of privilege with which I move through the world.
Right.
And so Bo is able to, like, when we talk about humility and getting right-sized, you need certain dudes. If you're a person like me, you need certain people who've been there, who've experienced certain shit in their lives where they can speak to what you're dealing with, because a therapist isn't going to speak to it. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to hear it from you who studied Carl Jung in Harvard for 5 years and really grew up in Thousand Oaks, and then, you know, you got injured when you played football and then life just all worked out. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to hear it from you. It has to be from a guy who I know has been there, and also a guy who I know has a real laugh. Bo has real joy in his life. Real joy. It's not manufactured, and it's also not tied to his finances or his ego. That dude is a service to his. He has a route towards being of service to the hood, his people, the people around him. You know, he's involved in the community, and he's of service. The whole reason that shit started up was I was piggybacking his knowledge of how to be a service for my ego. Slauson started with a conversation with me and him, me trying to, you know, I was trying to join a gang. I was I was hanging out with a bunch of Harpies members and was like fully jumped in and was a part of a gang and trying to talk to him about shit. He's looking at me like, bro, you don't know fuck, you know, you got a bunch of tattoos and like, okay, right, you got jumped in the park. You don't know anything about this shit, you know? And he was generous with me. He could have just wrote me off, you know, as a person with no depth and no weight, because I hadn't experienced shit in my life compared to him. Now we speak more like contemporaries, because he knows how to bend to hell in a real way. And he knows while we were talking, I was there. And I mean, this is kind of part of being a man. It's like, you kind of got to fuck it all up a little bit.
I think so.
I think part of learning is dying. I think part of learning is you got to die a little bit. Because what is learning? Learning is me giving up on my old shit, my old ideas. Those ideas have to die for me to be open to some new shit. And so me learning how to be a better man, I had to die a little bit.
And when you kill shit inside of you, man, there's a fucking hole. And you don't know what to put in there. And you just got to find the right food. You got to find the right food.
And I was lucky to have like some good dudes in my life at the time when it hit for me to be able to fill it with the right shit. You know, and that's only furthered the longer I've been in the middle of it, you know, getting in contact with whatever spiritual path you find. But when you're around a bunch of dudes who are really committed to that kind of life, it rubs off on you if you're around it long enough.
I just want to give you one more opportunity, if you want it, just to speak about your wife, man, and just about what she means to you and you know, her path and her relationship with all this. I know she's been a part of your life for a long time, but just if you feeling it, just speak on her.
Yeah, well, I'll never be able to speak on it. I don't know nothing like this relationship. I never have in my life. I never had, even my parents, even my father, you know, I never had what I got with her, which is, you know, to enter my life, to be with me, she had to take a loss. She had to like eat shit to be with me. To be with me, she had to re-enter being a part of my life, she had to take a hit. In ways that I've spoken about before, and in other ways too, probably, you know? And what I know love to be is selfless, loving action. And I've never known anything as loving or as selflessly active as what this woman did for me in my life. She showed up for me at a time when, I mean, this is the first time I saw her. We had been estranged for like years because of my jealousy. She went and did a movie with another actor, and I thought she was cheating on me. So then I cheated on another. It was just fucking mess. It was all weak shit, little boy shit, like nonsense. And we hadn't talked for 2 years when all this shit hit, and I wound up at this rehab, right, in Utah, and they do something called Family Week, and every week, on a Sunday, everybody who's involved in the program has their family show up on these Skype calls. And everybody will show up in the same room. And your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your wife, your friends, whatever.
Just you and the people? Or
no, it's you, the whole squad of you that are in this group. Like 12 of us in my class.
Everyone's family.
Everyone's family pops up on the screen. And week 1, no one shows up. For me, no one. They got the calls. I know they got the calls, but no one showed up. My mother, my father, no one showed up. Manager, friends, no one showed up. Week 2, same thing. So I'm sitting in this room, and even the person who's like therapizing me, she's starting to feel like this. She's empathizing with where I'm at. Everybody else in the room, we got a dude who like, you know, this isn't just alcoholics and shit. This is like fucking arsonists and like child predators and all kind of wild people in this group, right? And they got people showing up for them. And I don't have nobody showing up for me. And week 2, week 3, I'm there 90 days. So I'm there for a clip. And there comes a point where Family Week comes around. I say to my therapist, like, I'm not going to go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to subject myself to this shit. Like, I'm on a path, and you know, let me just stay here. Like, I don't want to keep reminding myself of how fucked my situation is. And she says, no, I think you should show up this week. And I show up thinking, all right, my mom's gonna be on there. You know, my mom will be on. And Mia is on the screen. And, you know, like, you don't deserve that kind of shit. You know what I mean? You don't deserve that kind of shit. Like, I don't deserve that kind of shit. You know, I done put her through years and years of fucking nonsense, bro. Just like, and I don't have nothing to offer her either. You know what I mean? I'm in the middle of my shit. You know, I'm like, I'm like 2 months into this program. You know, I don't even have nothing going on. I have nothing going on. I'm making this list. She's at the top of the list, but I'm not reaching out to her or nothing like that. And you heard her voice, like she's like a fucking angel, you know what I mean? Everybody does their shit and I'm fucking gone, you know? And so they let her go first because I can't even fucking believe. And they all know because I ain't had no family show up for me. And she unmutes and she's like, "Hi, Shia." You know, and it's like, she's prepping a movie. She ain't got no fucking time for this, you know? But she found time and she said, "Hi, Shia." And we just smiled. We had nothing else to say. But she saved my fucking life, dog. Like, before the kid, before the job, before God, before any religion, before a laugh, before a laugh, before Bo, before a phone, before anything, was this woman's face. And there wasn't no promises made, wasn't no long conversation being had, nothing. Just her presence, the ministry of presence. Sometimes that's all you need to offer a person who's in a situation like that, is like just to be present. And she was present for me at a time when I didn't deserve to have nobody in my life, especially her. And I'm not trying to do this boo shit because right away my head goes to like, how's this being viewed? I'm such a fuck this way,
you're
but
good. Come on, man.
Yeah. She's a real one. She's a real one, and I'll never be able to. It's the first time I really understood love because I didn't have nothing to give, and I was sitting there thinking like, well, I don't have nothing. It's not sexy to be with me. Don't you get it? Like, people out here accusing me of like putting makeup on my genitals and like shooting dogs and shit. Like, you know, that's what I'm being accused of. And you're showing up for me like you're gonna be tied to this shit? It didn't make no fucking sense. And love is irrational that way. You can't rationalize real love. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And I had spent my whole life trying to rationalize it. Like, you know, this dude hits me up. He's in my corner because, you know, we fuck with the same craft. You know what I mean? That's what he loves this thing that I got that I'm like, I'm G with this shit over here. That's why he loves me, because he loves that part of me that's G at this. You know, and then I would write your love off like, oh, okay, you love me because I do this shit. And so many of my relationships were basically like, you love me because I'm fucking sensei over here. In the dojo, I'm black belt right here. So you love me because of this. And when they blow the dojo up, you're like, I'm not G at I'm not sensei at nothing. I don't even know how to fish. I don't even know how to fucking do nothing. Like, I don't even know how to camp. I'm a fucking little kid. You know what I mean? I don't know how to make a fire. And yeah, she gave me hope, bro, when I was really like running on fumes. I wasn't running on empty, but I was running on fumes. I'd had a sponsor in my life who was he was saying, yo, be patient, the shit will show up. Miracles will show up. This was another miracle. Bags packed is a miracle. You know, them laughing in the car is a miracle. My wife's face on the Skype call is a miracle. This shit starts to add up where, you know, it becomes this like, it creates faith because you're not doing it. It wasn't some fucking dope poem I sent or some flowers I sent that put her on the Skype call. And it wasn't good behavior or being a man. Bro. It wasn't good sex that got my wife on the Skype call. It wasn't like any of this self-will shit that I used to validate her being in my life. Like, even my sex life was like, it was so performative. It was like, well, if a woman didn't orgasm, I would question it. You know, like, what does this mean about me? It was always about me. I never had like a real coupling. It was always performative, and it was always like this constant validation trip. If I would try to look for the same shit I got at work over here in this relationship. And the reason I didn't like being friends with men is it was constantly this comparison study. You know, and this has been difficult too, is to like reach back out to people who were in my corner then, who are still in my corner but are G's. It's hard to reach out to dudes like that because you knew them at a certain level. You know, another dude who really showed up for me was Cuddy. Like, he was the first friend that really hit me back, you know, like, And he's a fucking G. Dude is like, his life is on fire. And it's hard to, like, I've always known him at a certain kind of equivalency. We've always been to be in each other's lives as sort of like, you know, like I knew him at a level. And I'm not at that level. And sometimes it's difficult to like, to show up for the love. To show up for the love that people are throwing at you. Because you think you think you are these Twitter comments. You think you are this idea fuck, I got to get out of this octave because I sound like boohoo bullshit.
No,
but
come on, being you, bro.
Yeah, but I don't want to be fucking performative for your shit.
Dude, just...
It's difficult for a dude in my spot to receive love. Because you don't feel like you deserve it. And so, you wind up dipping on a lot of people, even when they're showing up for you. And then you got to have like real conversations. I had to really put it out there to him, like, bro, I don't feel successful enough to be your friend anymore. What a fucking like crazy shit to write, but you gotta air it out.
You're not stuck there anymore.
Nah, I wouldn't be able to sit here with you if I was there.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you about this shit.
Right. And so so the emotion right now, what this is
it's almost
from,
it's in retrospect
of like, damn,
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
that's
where
how
I was.
Who gives a fuck about all that shit?
This is where I'm looking back at it because I think, fuck, what a sorry case. Like, what a sad motherfucker for real. You know what a. And that's who I was. Not even that long ago, bro. This is like 2 months ago.
But I understand. But the fact that you were there, the fact that you've been there, that you treaded on that path, means you can actually talk to others who are fucking locked in that bullshit.
And I do.
That's it, man.
And that really is my purpose in life now. Is to like be able to express the reality of my life, that you could be where I just was, you know, in some kind of sense memory, like remembering the text message conversation I had with this man, and also know that now we talk all the time. You know, now I don't need to be anything. I don't need to be a certain this or a certain that to have permission to have friends, or a wife, or anything. Like I deserve it. And that's a hard thing to say that you deserve love when on paper, no, you don't. You know what I mean? Listen, bro, like for me, there are few things as ugly as putting your hands on a woman. There's nothing worse. I remember I used to come into AA all the time, put my hand up like, yeah, I just got in a fight with a cop. I grew up on Eazy-E. This shit's sexy, you know what I mean? I used to put my hand up like, I just flipped a car, you know what I mean? I just got in a fight with this or that. And there was like this faux, it was like I romanticized that kind of shit. 100%. When you come back in and you raise your hand, and you don't even need to raise your hand because dude's already read it, your baggage already showed up at the hotel before you got there. People know about you. There's nothing sexy about what I'm dealing with. And that's what makes me useful. It's also why I go to strictly men's meetings. Because you don't hear about dudes talk about what we're talking about at a mixed meeting. Because very quickly, once women are involved, I probably wouldn't be able to talk like this with you if there was a woman here. Because right away, the little boy in me would start like curating again. You know what I mean? And when I'm here with you, I can forget about that also and all this shit. It takes a certain kind of dude to be able to open a person up like this and be receptive of it. And also like show up and look the dragon in the eye knowing that there's purpose. Like I'm purpose driven here. I'm willing to eviscerate myself and emasculate myself and like... because I know that there's this grander purpose than like me trying to
100%.
Yeah. So the reason I go to strictly men's meetings is because dudes get vulnerable about the ugly shit, the shit that dudes don't want to talk about. And the reason this show is important is because you kind of serve the same purpose that those things on a bigger scale, in a less specified sense, for a lot of dudes that don't have a masculinity ceremony. There's no puberty ceremony in culture. Right. When do you come in as an American man? When do you become a man? When you get a driver's license? Like, what do we do? You're 16, we give you a driver's license. Okay, well, like, you get a job? Like, when do you become a man? You become a man when you become responsible for other people. And part of that is taking accountability. And so like I'm very new to this being a man thing and I'm still not there and I'm on a path. But I didn't have no like I grew up in a culture that told me going to war made you a man. Going to prison and coming back makes you a man. Making $1 million makes you a man, you know, and it doesn't. And you don't know it till you've done all these things and realize, damn, I'm still a little fucking boy. Yeah. Or been around people who've been there a bunch of times. You know, I don't know nothing about being at war like Kevin, but I know a bunch of soldiers that come back and are still fucking little boys. Can't wait to get back out. I know so many dudes can't wait to get back out, you know. Guys that we know, you know, warriors. But even warriors don't make you a man.
That's right.
You know. Also, my definition of warrior has changed.
Me too.
Like, you know, I didn't really know what that meant. And really, it's about bringing others back. Mm-hmm. And that's my whole fucking mission, dog, really. Is just to, like, dudes who've been where I've been or something similar, just know it gets better. It does. Like, it don't make no sense. It doesn't make no sense. It's irrational. It doesn't make any sense on paper that I could have joy in abundance in my life, that I could feel any kind of joy in my life after being what I've been. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make.
The path isn't clear. It's not lit up. You got to find it.
Yeah, and also you got to get the fuck out of the way, and that's where the work really is. It's like getting out the way, and allowing this bigger thing to work in your life. Because the bigger thing is working in your life whether you know it or not. And you're either going to let go willingly or you're going to get dragged. But either way, you're going to be humbled in this life. And there's nothing you can do about it.
How do you feel about the craft going forward? Are you I know you talked about the experience you just had and it aligned yourself and it served you and served your mission and informed your mission.
Sure.
But you also recognize that there's real trappings. You also recognize that there's real...
Did you say trappiness?
Trappings.
Oh, I thought trappiness is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Trappiness.
But yeah,
there's
same shit. Trappings, dog. You know what I mean? There's you go down that path and those voices. How do you feel? What are you looking for? What's your interest? Do you have a plan? Do you have desires? Do you have like so tell me. So like what's your relationship to it now?
I'm not just saying this because it sounds good. Like I'm on my professional good guy. Like all I care about is my purpose. Mm-hmm. I don't really think about craft much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When it pops up, and really the only guys that can work with a guy like me are dudes at a certain level, because they're gonna have to talk to a marketing department about why they just hired an atomic bomb to come work on their movie. You know, and the only dudes who can really make that kind of shit happen are guys who are very far and few between.
Right.
But I'm also not in this jobbing mode. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was talking about dude the other day, like something really sexy about working at Home Depot. Mm-hmm. You know, my head goes there before it goes to like, let me go work on some movie where I'm playing a Romanian vampire lawyer. You know what I mean?
You think you could work at Home Depot?
Yeah.
You think you have the skills for it?
1,000%.
But you think you understand the inventory of Home Depot?
I spend so much time in Home Depot, dog.
Do you?
Yeah, that's a church for me.
Yeah.
Home Depot
Are you
is
building a lot? Are you working with your hands?
I'm in Home Depot all the time.
Okay, so you feel like
I love Home Depot.
What's another job you feel like you could do that would both serve you and your mission? You feel like you'd be good at?
Oh, just any kind of like regular shit, like regular like.
Do you think you could work in a kitchen?
No,
because you're not good.
Well, that's another kind of
okay.
That's another kind of crafty job where like the impetus is on the poetry of you.
Right.
Then I'm fucking lost again.
Right.
I'm talking about something where the poetry of me doesn't matter one fucking iota.
Right.
I need something like I'm looking at jobs that don't cultivate your poetry and your uniqueness. I'm looking for jobs that keep me humble. And I think working at Home Depot Home Depot is full of possibilities.
So in the back of your mind, there's not something, this yearning. I mean, I'm sure the voice is there that's saying, I got stories to tell. I got to get out there.
No.
It's gone.
No. Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone, or it's just quiet.
I don't wake up and think about what acting I'm going to do.
Right.
No, that doesn't take any space in my life. I don't have an agent. I don't have like, I don't live that shit. I have dudes I'm around and I watch them do the shit. I don't do that. Both because my life is structured in such a way where the universe has has given me that gift. That's where I'm at right now. I need you to not be interested in me. I need that route to not be open to me for me to get where I need to be.
For sure.
Because if it is,
for sure,
buddy boy,
for sure,
you know, I'm gonna go.
Is there any way that you feel like you can use your...
But that's also not to say that there aren't opportunities where you can't say no. You know, when Coppola calls you, when Abel Ferrara calls you, these are dudes I looked up to before I was a heretic.
Right.
You know what I mean? I always, Bad Lieutenant for me, top 10. Yeah. You know, The Conversation, top 10. Yeah. This shit, it's like when the top 10s call you, then it's like, don't deny God either.
Right.
And so I was blessed to work with Abel and had an incredible experience working with him and made a lifelong friend in him. And he had the clout and was insane enough and was searching for something so specific that he thought I was the right guy for the job. I have something to offer for a very specific kind of guy in a very specific kind of role. It happened to work there. It also had intrinsic value attached to it.
Yep.
And so that, you know,
that you learned by doing it. You didn't know going in.
Nah, dude.
As it is.
I went in there on a let me get back to my hustle mission. You know, Abel Ferrara, Willem Dafoe. Oh shit, I'm back on. I can read the Deadline articles now. You know what I mean? Like this is where instantly. Yeah. And so more humility had to happen through the process, you know, and has to happen on a day-to-day basis. Day-to-day. You know, I'm movie got into Venice. It's in competition. Boy, right away, my fucking head could talk all kind of shit and make me feel like, oh, you know what? You're back on, dog. You know, and I spend a lot of time in prayer. Like, why do you got us going there? You know, why have you made it accessible to me and not to other people?
Why have you provided me wiggle room? It is my responsibility to not make it that.
Yeah. And what kind of lesson am I supposed to be learning here? Not just in how to navigate this stuff away from set, but how do I navigate on set relations? Do you want me to work different? You know, this is why my working different happened. It was like, because my main priority was my good guy, and my way of working was not about that at all. My way of working was animal. Totally. It was totally instinct driven, magic cultivating. I couldn't even put my finger. I don't have a process. You at least have I don't have no process. My process is, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what I do, which is another problem. But this time it was because I was playing a priest, a monk, and I was surrounded by non-actors. It was no other actors. There was only monks around me. There's no acting going on. It's, you're gonna show up in the morning and pray with us, and you're gonna have to learn Latin prayer. You're gonna have to do this. You can't act this. You can't be over here on your cell phone and then jump over here and be running mass. It's not gonna work. Yeah. So it forced me to, and there's a certain amount of humility that comes with being a priest. And a certain amount of suffering that you ask for. You know, a priest is a masochist. It's the most masochistic thing in the world to want to be a priest. Because what are you actually doing? It's the ultimate performance. When you go up and run mass, you're performing the death of Christ. You're not just telling the tale. You are embodying the journey to the mount. You are performing it. Yeah. And the good ones really go there. I happen to be playing a dude who, and this is why the job worked for me, invited a certain amount of destruction into his life. He invited a certain amount of pain, and he painted with his pain. He felt, Pio specifically felt that his mass was a mass of tears. And so he would cultivate all this pain, he was nourishing and cultivating and watering his pain on a day-to-day basis because he felt his purpose was to suffer for others. And I was there for a minute. I remember talking to you about like what this job is. You know, your job is to show up and bleed out. That's how we used to talk about this. Right. What is the job? Show up and die in front of the camera. You better, you know, leave it all on the field. That's how I used to talk about my craft was I am a vessel for suffering. What I do best is I suffer in front of a camera. And So you're playing this guy, you have this certain way of working, and yet it's like the most loving, calm, collaborative lack of control in a performance I've ever had. The performance isn't something I made, it happened to me. You know, we would do takes, and right before the take I'd get nervous and I'd look over to this dude named Brother Alex, and I never used to do this. I used to play like music on loudspeaker. You know, I used to be such a manager. You know, yeah, but you got to play this song on this. I'm going to go jump in the corner and I'm going to... You've seen how I get down. Like, it's so managed. I'm not going to show up on set until da-da-da. I'm not going to rehearse. I'm going to do this. This guy's got to be here and you got to do this and don't look at me.
You're getting in my way. You're the enemy.
Yeah. Get away from me. Yeah. I don't need you here, you know?
Yeah.
And this time it was like I was leaning on dudes who weren't actors, you know, and they would look at me and they don't have the answers either. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes when you're entering a mass of tears and you're playing one of the most important figures in all of Catholicism, the pressure's heavy. The pressure's enormous. You're in Italy. You're staying at the seminary he grew up in. He is considered like the most important, other than Christ in Italy, he is the most important Catholic. He's more important than St. Francis. He is, they paint him on walls. So when you tell people you're playing Pio right away, you can't live up to it. It's just impossible. You're never going to get it. And really, it's like playing Bob Dylan. If you're going to play Bob Dylan, you better learn how to play some songs.
That's right.
If you're going to play Pio, you need to know how to run a mass. And so there's a lot of pressure in a mass. And so 11 months of prep went to this one moment where you're getting ready to run this mass. And old me would have been so managed. Old me would have been so nitpicky and so controlling, and this got to be there and that's got to be here. And really, like, I showed up on set. It was the easiest and probably the best work of my life. I showed up on set. I looked at this man. I told him I loved him. He told me he loved me, and then you're off and running. And I had never had that as a motivator. When I told you, like, what motivated my life before all this happened to me wasn't love. It wasn't goodwill towards my fellows. The idea that somebody's life would be motivated by that felt cheesy and like naive, you know, like not in this dog-eat-dog environment. No way. It's actually the most powerful.
100%.
Yeah, I never worked from that place. I never used that well. And I didn't know that well was full either. And then you turn to that well, and that well is full, and the work is better, and it's almost like a part of you dies a little bit. It's like when we talk, you learn to move a different way. But if you'd have told me that when we were on Fury, I'd have told you kick rocks, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? You know, no way.
Yeah.
And maybe that was what you were trying to tell me. You know, maybe I just wasn't open to the message. I remember Brad turning to me one time in a scene, and this is Brad, right? The fuck am I to a Brad? Brad, no matter what you look at, you know, there's no way you can write the man off. As a craftsman, as a fucking Adonis, as a father, as an all-around G. The dude is thorough. And I remember being on set with him and him turning to me after a scene and saying, man, what do I do? And my fucking ass got lost. I was intoxicated. Brad Pitt just asked me what to do. I didn't even hear what the question was. My response wasn't even, it didn't come from no honest place. All I heard was, you're amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't see the genius of his humility.
Wow.
I didn't see the beauty in his love.
Wow.
I didn't see it. I didn't see this selfless act. He was actually bigging me up and using his take to do it. He knew I was next. He knew they were going to turn this camera around and I was going to have to go after him, because no matter how you structure it, when you're the star of a movie, you go first, usually. And he was going first, and he used his last take. He threw it away just so he could big me up, because he knew the camera was turning around, and all I heard was, you're fucking amazing, dog. Give me advice. And that fucked me up for a while. I just wasn't ready to hear or see what he was actually doing, which was coming from this place of humility and love and like he was like I don't know what the word is. It's not emoliating, but he kind of like, he leveled himself to like big me up, and I had never moved like that or knew anything about that in life or in craft.
Yeah.
But I've been around dudes who did it. I just couldn't see it. You know, I looked up to like the rah-rah gorillas I was around, you know. Part of me really appreciated working with you because I thought, here's another rah-rah gorilla I'm around. But yours has, you have an adaptation that I couldn't see at the time, you know? Because you loved us, all of us. You know, I remember me and Pena were about to get in a fist fight in London.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and you showed up for us. And that fight went away. And you didn't have to do that, you know? And it's not always like tough guy either. I remember like sitting in the grass with you and you being like, hey, let's run these scenes. And us like sitting in the grass, like on some Dead Poet Society shit. You know what I mean? Sitting in the grass, just like reading to each other.
With apples and shit.
Yeah, with apples and shit. But yeah, some of the stuff I see now was around me already, and I just wasn't open to it. Even the things like Hardy was always very brotherly with me, he's another dude who in the midst of all this shit, I had to make amends to him. Because, you know, I did a press tour where I mouthed off about how me and him got in a fist fight and and like on my rah-rah, let me define myself by using this other man who's respected in the world and let me minimize him to big myself up kind of shit. Like, and I had to make amends to him. He was on my list. And when I hit him up, you know, the response also, because he's got principles in his life, you know, the response wasn't even a conversation. It was not even it was, I love you, you don't owe me no amends, you know, but thanks. Sometimes it is just that simple, but the fact that I'm showing up for it and I'm taking stock in my life and I'm defining that vague tension that existed between me and other people is how I gotta move so that I don't have this monologue in my head that tells me I'm a piece of shit. In order to get rid of that monologue, I gotta show up and I gotta clean it up. That's really what I'm doing now. So you asked me if I think about acting much. I got bigger fish to fry right now. That's where I'm at. I know not much. I know I love you. I know I'm blessed today. I know I got work to do, and I know that it's all gonna be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. I like watching you from afar.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's John, Bam Bam the dog. First, on behalf of both of us and everybody from the Real Ones team, I just want to sincerely thank you guys for tuning in. The folks that I bring on the show, they're family to me, and being able to tell their stories and bringing you into their world is something I'm just super proud of, and again, grateful that you guys tune in. We've decided we want to take things just a step further. We're going to introduce a Patreon community. And basically what that means is if you become a part of this community, look, I already bored Bam Bam. If you want to become a part of this community, you're going to be able to hear episodes early and all that, ad-free and all that good stuff. But there's all this behind-the-scenes footage, all this stuff that we've shot that really brings you into the folks that we've had on the show, really brings you into their world. You're going to be able to do live chats with me and the folks that I bring on the show to talk about their world, talk about the issues that they're dealing with, about their triumphs and their tragedies. Just go to Patreon/RealOnes on this website that you see right there, right on the screen, that's right in front of you. This whole idea was something about building bridges and bringing people together and bringing folks that often don't get the mic and giving the mic to them. So the fact that you guys tune in means the world. Anyways, again, thank you. Be good to each other out there. Rock and roll.